I am Martin, representing the plaintiff, and this is Anne representing the defendant. Now we will discuss about Sophia's case. Sophia, the girl who suffered from asthma diseases, had died because of the apricots taken. Sophia's parents have managed to sue the government for their daughter's death. In this case, is the government liable to Sophia's death due to the negligent?
To see whether the government is negligent or not, we should firstly consider if the government really has the duty of care for Sophia's health, and then the breach of duty, and lastly the causation and damages.
Okay, about the duty of care, I have something to say. Do you think that a police officer is reasonable enough to request someone to verify the identity by showing the ID cards?
Sure, it is a public policy that the government implements to guarantee the public security.
That's the point I would like to make. The government has the responsibility of caring citizens' well-being. The people empower the government to implement public policies for their well-being. That's why the government every year urges citizens to receive subsidized vaccine injection to guard against flu or promote public safety by giving the right to the police officer to request someone to verify their identities by showing the cards. This applies to both air quality and food safety. The government should be responsible for these two aspects in view of guaranteeing citizens' general health. Sophia, being an asthma patient, was subjected to the adverse effect of poor quality. Besides, not only she, but all citizens would be subjected to harmful food. Thus, it is obvious that the government has the responsibility of making sure the local air quality is good enough for not harming citizens' health and the food is safe enough for citizens to eat.
True that this should be the government's responsibility, but one should know that this is a general duty of care. Here I emphasize the word general, that the duty of care could be about, as the plaintiffs mentioned, the well-being of citizens. Say in a car accident, if the driver was injured because of the improper traffic lights or insufficient road lamps, the government should be liable to the damage as it is caused by poor road safety facilities. But if the injury was due to car defects, it would not be reasonable for the government to bear the liability. In this case, it would likely be the car manufacturer to bear the product liability. In Sophia's case, if her death was caused only by the